This is terrible and sad. This poor man. Um, I don't know if any of you have had the stomach to watch this particular video. This is a very I don't know if he had issues prior to his abuse of drugs or if it's all post drug use. But this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. First, he doesn't understand the rules of evidence or anything like that. So, um, second, if you're going to argue with the judge, you're usually not going to help yourself if you argue with the judge. I mean, you could preserve your argument for appeal. You could preserve it, but you don't want to like just argue with the judge. And you don't want to say there's lots of like cases from like across the whole country that like point out that he's like breaking the Constitution. Like, surprisingly enough, that's not going to have a huge impact on the judge's decision making process. He's not going to suddenly go, oh, like cases from like across the country, like, wow, I'll totally like change my opinion of what should or shouldn't be happening in here. It's very uncommon for lawyers to just start spouting about cases orally, in my experience. I mean, there are some cases that like will be more or less common that everybody practicing in a field will kind of remember and reference, like Epstein credits. You don't have to cite the actual case. You can just say it's an Epstein credit, and everybody will go, or at least in California, everybody involved will go, oh, okay, it's an Epstein credit. Okay, that's what we're talking about. They know the kind of background of that case, and it's just that common. It's But if you're going to make a constitutional challenge, then you really need to actually that would be something that you'd actually want to draft a motion to dismiss of some sort where you include a memorandum of law laying out all the cases with citations, and you actually show your train of thought, your logical argument. You know, this case said this, and then this case said this, and then this case said this. And so, therefore, based on these facts, if we apply the analysis and the preceding cases, then we'll get this result. And yeah, so he should be bringing up cases with specificity and probably in some sort of a written motion. So the court and opposing counsel can take the time to go through it. Opposing counsel will probably make a responsive pleading to that motion that will lay out whatever cases that he thinks undermine your cases, and he'll also try to spin the facts to undermine your facts, or to he'll put emphasis on different facts than you do. Anyway, there was something else I was going to say about this. Oh yeah, accountability. That's right. He seems to think that somehow the judicial branch is not accountable because he can't go in and film it. Well, you can't go in and film the governor while the governor is in his office. You I don't understand entirely how people think that filming in a lobby is holding people accountable. I you know, you do you, boo. Um, but there is the point of the judicial branch, one of the many points of it, is to hold the other two branches accountable. And there are mechanisms within the judicial branch that provide accountability. There are documents for every case. A case I'm There's a family law case that I'm working on right now at work. There are 3 bankers' boxes full of papers. And we haven't even gotten to trial on it yet. 3 bankers' boxes full of papers. Now that's not the norm. Normally you'll get probably half a banker's box roughly worth of papers. A little more, a little less, but somewhere around in there. Half to 3/4. So there are a lot, and that's just the documents that we have. A court will probably get them all into one file. It might be a fat file, but it'll probably all fit into one file, unless it's a real complex case. And by a file, I mean these are big, kind of like accordion style files that probably expand to between 4 and 6 inches roughly of paper. So you can fit quite a bit in there. But there's a lot of documentation on these cases. And they store these documents, I'm not going to say forever, but for a damn long time. Sometimes they go into archival sites, but they do store them. So there's those records. I know that James Freeman is terribly concerned about being, and I'm using huge air quotes here, on the record at all times in court because he thinks that somehow things aren't being recorded that should be. I don't know. I guess if you don't understand what's going on, you might think that would be appropriate. But like all your motions and everything like that are filed. Testimony that's given by witnesses will be typically recorded. That's what court reporters do. They type it up. Nowadays, they also have the audio files too. So you can, if you think that something was misrecorded, you can bring it to the court reporter's attention, and they'll fix it if they did make a mistake. But the purpose of all that paperwork is to allow an appeals court to review what happened in the lower court. The system is literally set up for courts to be held accountable. And then if that appeals court, if their decision is questionable, then there's always at least a third tier, which would be like either a state Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court. And if you hit the top of the state Supreme Court, if it's some sort of a constitutional issue, or if it's a constitutional issue, then you could appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court, theoretically. They don't hear that many cases every year, but it's a possibility. So yeah, there are huge built-in safety valves in the actual justice system. So I don't know exactly what you think adding an extra camera to some court proceedings is going to do to hold the justice system accountable any more than it already is. So, anyway, I've rambled on long enough about this poor fella. I'm not actually trying to make fun of him. I'll call people who aren't actually mentally handicapped names, but this guy I actually think is. So I don't think necessarily we should cheer him on in his misunderstandings, but I don't think that we should necessarily insult him for his inability to understand. But then there's retards. Actual honest to God retards. Snooker B is a retard, desperately seeking my attention. You may wonder why I'm not and why I'm sandwiching this into the back end of this video. You'll notice that this one from 25 minutes ago is here. This one from 28 minutes ago is gone. This one from an hour ago is also gone. Snooker B likes to do that. I get lots and lots of notices from Snooker B because Snooker B is desperately seeking my attention. I've done 2 videos on Snooker B. Literally every fact that she wrote down was wrong on those 2 videos. I don't believe a third video is going to change anything. Snooker B will still be entirely factually incorrect. So there you go. And then he wants me to talk about these. Johnny Morris is normally just trolling, but I actually think that he's passionate about this. If you fail to pay your child support claims, then yes, you can lose your licenses in a lot of states. Does that make sense? Yes and no. It's certainly not a perfect solution. If you're a truck driver and you make your money to pay child support with your license, then taking your license from you is obviously going to negatively impact your ability to pay your child support. However, I would like to point out that if you were paying your child support with the money you were making by using your driving license, you wouldn't be in a position to lose your license for not paying child support. I don't know if everybody's kind of grasped that. Another thing I do want to caution people about is that if you do get in arrears, let's say you go to jail for 6 months and you don't seek to get your child support modified while you're in jail. Obviously, you're not making the kind of money that you were making out on the outside. The problem is that the court orders, at least in California, they continue to tick. There is a court order that you have to pay that amount. And if you don't get that court order modified, then sorry, it's your responsibility to do. And yes, there are, I mean, I'm involved in this. If you get a wage assignment, if you get a garnishment, then the child support will be automatically deducted from your wages. If for some reason they can't do that, like if you're not working above board, or if you're an independent contractor or independent business owner or something like that, where you don't have an employer who can garnish your wages, then even then you will still get notices. There's like, also you can't, there's some like federal things it's really hard to attach. But anyway, you'll still get notices. You'll still get the Department of the DCSS, Department of Child Social Services, or I don't remember what it stands for. But the Departments of Social Services, the Child Safety Service, I don't know. Anyway, they'll contact you. They give you logins to check your account, to see where you are in arrears. If you are having trouble paying if your situation changes and you find yourself making less money than you were, or if you have more obligations to pay, like if you have another child with a different woman, like, and so your child from a previous relationship, you're paying support on it. If you don't seek to get that order modified, then that's really on you. There's a certain point where you have to start taking responsibility for your own action. So while I understand that it's not a perfect thing to do to remove people's driver's licenses, there's a limit on what you can do to get these people to comply. There's only so many sticks available that you can beat them with to try to get them to pay for their obligations. So I definitely understand that there are problems with it. If you can think of a better solution, then, write your congressman, write your state assembly person, your state legislator, write to your governor, bring it up. Maybe there is a better solution out there and we just haven't found it yet. But you have to understand that they're doing that license revocation not because they don't want people to be able to pay, but because those people aren't paying while they have their driver's license. So leaving them their driver's license won't do anything to make them pay because they're not paying, I guess. Does that make sense? Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.